So if you are one of my subscribers, you know that I have been talking on African ritual sacrifices, especially as it relates to human ritual sacrifices, which is today an issue in West Africa, to be specific, in Nigeria. Right. So, I have been a Christian for as long as I can remember. And being one, over the years, has made me question some aspects of the Christian belief over the practice, the origin of Christianity, and just finding answer that will make me complete or whole. Not that I haven't done anything about this. When it comes to education, I have also extended my research on this, and this is what gave birth to this channel, Break H Barriers. In part of my research, I came across this video which raised a certain alarm in me as I listened in order to learn. And as the video played on, it corresponded to my current discussion on human sacrifice. So let's listen together.
We all long for the world to be good, for people to live in peace, act with love and justice. But there's a problem. Something compels us humans to constantly wreak havoc and destruction instead, and we call this evil.
And from the Bible's point of view, evil ruins things in at least two ways. There's a direct effect of our evil, like when someone steals from another person, they've created injustice.
Therefore, they owe something to make it right.
But there's another indirect effect of evil, because they've also ruined the environment of the relationship, creating a lack of trust, there's emotional damage. It's like vandalism, and they need to make that right too.
Now, many people believe, hey, God is good, he should be the one to just get rid of all the evil in the world.
But let's be honest, the evil that I see everywhere out there, it's the same evil that's inside of me. We have all contributed, and we keep doing it.
And so this kind of puts us in a bind. If God's going to rid the world of evil, he'll have to get rid of us.
And this is what's so remarkable about the story of the Bible. This God is so good that not only is he going to rid the world of evil, he's going to do it without destroying humanity.
So how is he going to do that?
Well, early in the story of the Bible, we're introduced to this practice of animal sacrifice, which I know, it seems weird to us, but for the Israelites, it was a very powerful symbol of God's justice and of his grace. So remember, I'm a contributor to the evil that's in the world. I should be removed. But God is allowing this animal's life to be a substitute. It's symbolically dying in my place. And the biblical word for this is atonement, which means to cover over someone's death. But there's a second part to this ritual. Remember, evil also causes this relational vandalism. And in the Bible, this idea is described as polluting or defiling the land and making it unclean. So the priest would symbolically wash away the vandalism by sprinkling the animal's blood in different parts of the temple.
So the animal's blood is cleaning things?
Well, remember, this is a symbol, and it's a symbol that we're not used to. The blood represents life. And the sprinkling of the blood is this representation of how God is cleaning away these indirect consequences of evil in their community. In the Bible, this process is called purification. And so the temple and the land now become a clean space where God and his people can live together in peace.
So this ritual makes things right between Israel and God.
And more than that, the Israelites experience God's love and his grace through these symbols. And by being forgiven, ideally, this would compel them to become people of love and grace too.
Right, that's the ideal, but it wasn't always happening.
Right. So the prophet Isaiah, for example, he talks a lot about this. He opens his book by saying that the continual sacrifices of the Israelites had become meaningless because they were also allowing great evil in their midst, ignoring the poor and the oppressed. Even the Israelite kings were distorting justice. But Isaiah looked forward to a day when a new king from the line of David would come and deal with evil, but in a surprising way. The king would become a servant, and not just serve, but also suffer and die for the evil committed by his own people. and his life would be offered as a sacrifice.
This is the promise Jesus believed he was fulfilling. He's the King of Israel, suffering and dying on the cross.
In fact, Jesus himself used Isaiah's words when he said that he came to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. And that word ransom refers to his sacrifice of atonement. And so all over the New Testament, we hear about how Jesus' death was an atoning sacrifice for us. It covered the debt that humans owe God for contributing to all of the evil and death in his world. But the New Testament authors also talk about Jesus' death as providing purification. And so we hear about Jesus' blood as a symbol of his life, having this ability to wash away the vandalism that evil has caused in us and around us, so we can now live at peace with God.
So that's the meaning behind Jesus' death. But there's more to the story.
Yeah, the New Testament makes this powerful claim that Jesus' death was not final. He rose from the dead. And so he's the sacrifice who broke the power of death and evil, which means that he lives on to offer his life to anyone who will accept it. He is the perfect sacrifice to which all the previous sacrifices were pointing all along.
So because of Jesus, the early Christians stopped participating in the ritual of animal sacrifice.
So I'm going to stop it right there. I would like to address the part where it said it was part of the Israelites' culture for sacrifice to be offered. I would like to point out that it wasn't just part of the Israelite culture, it was also the African culture. So there you see a lot of similarities in these cultures, which raises an eyebrow. But that aside, what I really want to emphasize on today is that of the human sacrifice. So when we listen to this video intently, it states that animals were being offered as part of the culture initially. Then it went to the human sacrifice, which is in the place of Jesus Christ. So is it now saying that the animals that were being sacrificed was not enough and a human had to be sacrificed as an atonement and for the sins to be cleansed? So this correlates with the human sacrifices that we have ongoing today. Prior to the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross of Calvary, was there a culture of humans being sacrificed? That is a question. And after the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, is that where the culture of human sacrifice began to increase and expand? It just brings questions about this belief in the cultures that we have today around the world, embracing the sacrifices of human beings as an atonement or an effective way of progression. Was this where the idea was bought, or the practice of human sacrifice exists prior to the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross of Calvary? If we have to look back to the Old Testament again, you will find that there was an instance in the Old Testament whereby Abraham had two options. The first option was sacrificing his son as an atonement, and the second option was sacrificing a lamb as an atonement. We have this situation whereby Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son as an atonement, but was intercepted, according to the narrative of the Bible, to sacrifice a lamb in place of his son. What this brings to mind is that human sacrifices has been part of the human culture. And is this the belief behind a lot of hypotheses in regards to people giving their life in place of their belief, people giving their life in place of their religion, people giving their life in place of their culture, people giving their life in place of what they stand for. We have seen this repeatedly in the history of human culture around the world. Why is human sacrifice so deeply embedded in the human belief? When did this change from sacrificing animals to sacrificing humans? Something to think about. Thank you very much for listening and watching as usual. Catch you in the next one. Take care now. Bye. Bye.